Get ready to take a free ride in a fancy car. It's time for Must Have Seen TV, the podcast dedicated to the sitcoms of the 20th century. From I Love Lucy to News Radio, I'm your TV guide, Brett White, also known as the drag queen Barb Hardley. And I'm also a senior reporter producer for Decider.com. And welcome to Thanksgiving. And say hello to the charred yams to my soupy stuffing, Ethan K. Hi, Ethan.
Hello, Brett. Happy Thanksgiving. 2 weeks early. We're recording this 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Or
because we gotta start doing some Thanksgiving episodes.
I apologize that we haven't recorded in a little bit. I was in Chicago, which is a beautiful town with amazing food. We had a family event out there, and we spent a couple days honestly working from a hotel room. They upgraded us to a fancy hotel room, and believe it or not, I saw nobody else staying in that hotel.
Oh, wow.
Very creepy, but the service was great. They upgraded us to like a fancy 2-room suite with a giant
and I became the bartender, and I'm still there, and I've been there for 100 years. I
wouldn't mind.
No, yeah,
I'd haunt Chicago. Chicago's all kinds of haunted.
I like The Shining.
I love The Shining.
I like The Shining. It's a good movie.
I saw I've seen it twice, like just on a TV at home, and I'm like, oh, that's a creepy movie. But then Nighthawk Cinemas in Williamsburg a couple years ago got a print of it, and sitting in the theater, let me tell you, it is 10 times creepier than just watching on a television.
It's very much a movie about ambiance, and I feel like if you're in a theater, you're only experiencing what's on the screen because you're not like in a comfortable, familiar surrounding.
Yeah,
so it's a bit lot more immersive.
The soundtrack, especially, there's like low, like low hum throughout a lot of the scenes, and it's really disturbing.
But now we are, talking about another family holiday, Thanksgiving. But yeah, also on Twitter, we had Chaotic Rambler added the podcast on Twitter and pointed out about the previous episode, the Kate and Allie episode. Head of the Class with Christopher Lloyd is an absolutely fantastic episode of amazing stories, and I do recommend it if the description intrigued you. It's one of the spookiest, funniest episodes of the series. So now I want to watch that episode about Christopher Lloyd. He was playing a teacher, and I think students were trying to get revenge on someone, I think was the premise.
Okay. Well, we appreciate the feedback.
And I think that Amazing Stories is streaming on NBC.com. So if you get the NBC app on Apple TV or app, I have the NBC app, and it is streaming through there with commercials. There's a treasure trove of weird Who's the Boss or no, Charles in Charge streams via that. So
a series that the cast has kind of gone off the rails.
All of them, right? Wait, well, the Willie Ames, right? He was Bible Man.
He became Bible Man.
Yeah.
A superhero that fights evil with armor of God, and also choice Bible verses and fighting.
Literature, the biblical.
And then now I don't know what he does. Probably does conventions as Bible Man. I don't know. Mall appearances.
I hope, yeah. I mean, and then Scott Baio is Scott Baio.
Scott Baio has now kind of tarnished his reputation by some things he has said and some political candidates he has supported.
Yeah, that happens with a lot of our old a lot of our friends. I mean, we can get into that today a little bit, not political stances, but with acts of physical violence on live television. But before we get to that,
before we start, I wanted to ask you, what are you watching these days?
So the two trains of thought. So one is for work. I every year review as many TV holiday movies, Christmas movies, as possible, because my love of Christmas and my love of bad movies both overlap in this joyous time of year, when in fact some of these movies end up not being bad or being self-aware enough to be actually fun. Like the one that I reviewed that aired last night, The Royal Nanny on Hallmark, which I was I need to watch because, oh my God, I need to just find But basically, the premise, the log line was like an MI5 agent goes undercover as a nanny at Christmas to protect the royal family, and I was like, I have got to see Hallmark's version of an MI5 agent. And then I watched it, and then I was like, this is actually if you did an episode of Alias, but on like a Hallmark budget and for the Hallmark audience, because there is a love story, but it is sincerely terrorists are plotting to like attack the royal family. It starts with a chase. There was a mole inside the royal family, inside like the house, and I was like, I don't know who the mole is.
It turned out well.
I was like, I don't understand how this made it on a Hallmark. And this is the recurring thing that I'm noticing with the Hallmark movies this year. Another one I did was Lights, Camera, Christmas, which was at a production of a Christmas movie in a small town loses their wardrobe supervisor. So a local vintage clothing seller and fashion designer has to become the wardrobe supervisor for this Christmas movie. And I was like, oh, well, that seems fun. And then I watched it and I was like, this actually is, it's not told linearly. There's a framing device of all of them at the debut, like screening of the movie. And it takes place at a panel Q&A. And so like their answers are the acts of the movie. So I'm like, that's interesting. And then like it said a lot of really interesting things about like career goals and being too afraid to like make leaps into like doing New York wasn't the villain in this movie. Like actually like moving to New York or LA was the thing, was the like goal. The goal. And it's almost like, this is amazing. So anyway, that I did doing that. And then also, and we can get into this a little bit with today's episode, the Thanksgiving sitcom episodes are hitting differently this year just because I'm prone to depression, and seeing all of these adult characters my age going home for the holidays and like seeing family or like having family is touchy for me right now. So I was like, what can I watch over the weekend? Because I got very depressed on Friday night, I guess. I don't know. What can I watch? And I was like, the Planet of the Apes movies, which in my head are Thanksgiving movies. Because I think I watched the first Planet of the Apes for the very first time at Thanksgiving, and so therefore it's always been associated. And I loved the first one, and I've always loved it, and I know it inside and out, but I've never really paid attention to the 4 sequels, and so I've been doing that. And so I've watched Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, and Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. And so I still have to watch Battle for. And I'm surprised by how good Escape from and Conquest of are.
They're kind of a forgotten sci-fi franchise that lasted a long time.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they definitely have their mark on pop culture. But, you know, if you talk about maybe the top 10 sci-fi franchises, most people, I think, would forget Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, and I want to also point out, action franchise led by a gay man and multiple gay men. Because Roddy McDowall, famous homosexual, is Cornelius and then Caesar, Cornelius' son. And then Maurice Evans, famous homosexual, also Samantha Stevens' dad on Bewitched.
I didn't realize that he was in it.
Yeah, he is Dr. Zaius.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
he was on Batman 66. He was the puzzler.
Yes, and I love the puzzler because of that. And then also Sal Mineo, a like old Hollywood gay actor, is the Milo the Scientist, the third chimp in Escape from the Planet of the Apes that lands, and he's the one that immediately dies. And they like that. So he's the one that like basically like lets us know like, oh, shit is getting serious. But
Apes
Escape from Planet of the Apes is kind of like Pretty Woman Planet of the Apes, because there's of course like a fashion montage on Rodeo Drive when Cornelius and Zira go and get like 70s clothes, and I was like, I love this so much. And then it ends with both of them being shot to death on an abandoned freighter.
Why are you spoiling it for people who have not seen these 50-year-old movies?
Yeah, this 50-year-old movie. Yeah. Yeah, so that's it's been a fun diversion. What were you watching in Chicago?
Chicago, we didn't really watch anything because we couldn't get our laptops to hook up to the TV. And so we didn't we watched like maybe 10 minutes of some weird ghost hunting show, but that was it. But over the last 2 days, since we're recording this on a weekend, Megan and I stay up pretty late on weekends. And and for me, that's a good time for me to just put comics in bags and tape them into a database and then do all that kind of stuff, which is honestly, it keeps my mind calm and it's no surprises. Although sometimes you discover that some issues that you have are worth a couple $100 and it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I love that.
Reached into a box yesterday, found the first appearance of Riri Williams, who's showing up in the new Black Panther movie.
Invincible Iron Man number 4 or something.
7 and then 9.
Yeah.
They're both worth about the same amount. But the thing we've been watching while that's been happening has been 2 shows. One is Evil, which is on CBS.
Mike Coulter.
Love that show.
Michael Emerson as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of like actors that you know from like,
Asif Manvi.
I love Asif Manvi in it. He's great. It's all about demons and the church investigating demons.
It is creepier because it was initially on CBS. It was a CBS network drama. And so I remember like I watched the pilot when it came out and I was like, doesn't like a demon drink urine in that first episode or something? Like,
I don't even remember because it just gets weirder.
It was like I cannot believe this is on the same channel as like NCIS Hollywood or whatever. It was like sincerely disturbing.
Well, now it's they've done 3 seasons. We're just about to finish season 2. It just gets weirder and wackier and more disturbing, and we love it. But the other one we started watching is an anime called Akiba Maid War, which is literally a gangster series, Yakuza series, but instead of gangs, each of the rival factions is a Japanese maid cafe. So it's brutal. It's like, there are these scenes of these 2 like maid cafes like gunning each other down and stealing each other's money and putting each other like trying to drown each other, and it is bonkers, but it is so fun because it's just that whole kind of like one genre mixed with another that kind of comes up together, and it's so weird, and I love it.
I mean, that's kind of the Planet of the Apes franchise, because these like all 5 movies are just like drastically different. Like you go from like apes going on, basically like, hey, basically it's like Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home into I don't know, the most recent Andor story arc of the prison break. Like that kind of, because Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is like, 20 years later, all apes are slaves who are doing slave labor, and then Caesar causes them to rise up, and then they just murder a bunch of humans. And it's shot in Century City, Los Angeles, where everything is concrete, and like it is, and all the humans are all wearing turtlenecks and blazers, all black. It's really great. But this week we will be traveling to about when Conquest of the Planet of the Apes takes place, November 19th, 1990, even though the film is from 1973. Home Alone ruled the box office. Love Takes Time by Mariah Carey topped the charts, and NBC aired the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode, Talkin' Turkey. Ethan, you must have seen Talkin' Turkey before today.
I didn't, but I wish I had. It's really good.
What is your Fresh Prince history?
I actually watched the first episode. I remember the first episode coming on and them saying, tonight, new episode, first episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I guess I like the commercials for it. I remember watching the first couple episodes and then sporadically through its run, less as the series went on. I wasn't watching as many of the later episodes, but the first 2 seasons I watched a lot of them. I don't think I saw this one, but it's possible.
Because I grew up, we weren't an NBC family until Friends debuted, so this was a little bit this is 4 years before. But so I was mostly an ABC kid at this time, TGIF, but I would watch Fresh Prince every now and then like reruns is really where I became a huge Fresh Prince fan. And then now that it's on HBO Max, when it was off streaming for so long, it was like cited as like I think someone like The Ringer or someone did an article about why isn't Fresh Prince streaming, and it's because it was too profitable as cable reruns. Like MTV would build their entire morning lineups around Fresh Prince, and reruns would get like 2 million views, like which is crazy.
And
it's still popular.
I don't think anyone will disagree that it's a fantastic show.
It is one of the tightest. I would say that Fresh Prince and Golden Girls are two of those shows that are just made for syndication because they are like still as funny today as they were then. Somehow, like the comedy has not aged. Like just like really good character based, sharp one liner, like sharply written comedy is what
really good.
Shows are.
Great performances from everybody. The characterization of everyone is great. You get like extremely staid and reserved characters like Jeffrey the Butler, whose name is Jeffrey Butler in the show.
Yeah.
And then you get like kind of just the complete opposite with Uncle Phil, that just like he has these bursts of emotion that come out that are just amazing.
Also Shredder.
I mean, for people, I just want to give a little background on the show, because I did a little bit of like looking into this on Wikipedia and around how the show came about. Benny Medina, who was a producer but also a music producer and a music manager, pitched the show based on his own life growing up in California. He was, a kind of a poor Black kid growing up the same way that Will Smith was doing in Philadelphia. And one of his rich white friends said, "Hey, you want to come live with me and my family?" So that kind of gave the background. He pitched the show to Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones is like, I love this. Quincy Jones, if you don't know, and you should, music producer, produced everything.
But he had produced motion pictures before this, right? Like, because it seems kind of weird to like this music producer I'm going to go pitch a TV idea to. Like, so, but didn't he do The Wiz? Am I just like,
I don't know. I have to look that one up.
Quincy Jones producer.
So Quincy Jones is like, I love this. They were going to they're trying to find a lead.
Yes.
Will Smith gets introduced to Benny Medina backstage at the Arsenio Hall show. They said, we come to this party. Quincy Jones is going to be there. Will Smith is like, I'm a rapper. I'm a musician. I don't act. They're like, read this script. It was a script for a completely different show that was supposed to star Morris Day from Morris Day and the Time. Will Smith read it. They're like, you are in. We're changing this so it's going to be about Philadelphia. And Will Smith signed the paperwork in the limo at Quincy Jones's party. So you'll see the Quincy Jones is a producer, produced the theme song. Benny Medina is a producer, but the series was created by Andy Borowitz from the Borowitz Report.
Yeah.
And Susan Borowitz is his wife at the time. So Borowitz Report is a satiric satiric news opinion series, which has been going on forever. So yeah, like it's got a lot of heavy hitters behind the scenes.
Yeah, Quincy Jones produced The Color Purple, so he was not the wrong person to go.
He was not.
He knew, of course. But also, if you make music like he does, you probably also know how to make television. That's
he's had a hand in literally every kind of music you've
also
ever.
Rashida Jones's father.
Father.
Yes, I was like father, uncle. Yeah.
Father, he was married to, I can't remember her name. She just passed away from the Mod Squad.
Oh, right. Squad. Yeah, God, I loved the notion of the Mod Squad in the late 90s. I never watched the show, but just like the idea of it. I did see the movie in theaters with Cameron.
So something else that came up that was really weird when I was doing some looking into this. Tupac Shakur criticized Quincy Jones for only dating and marrying white women. Tupac Shakur, to which Rashida Jones wrote an open letter to him criticizing his stance on this. Later, Tupac Shakur dated Rashida Jones's sister, Quincy Jones's daughter.
Wait, well, how old was Rashida Jones when she was writing an open letter to Tupac? Is this the 90s?
It was a while ago, but yeah.
Oh my God.
But just like, I don't know.
Wild shit.
Everything's connected.
Yeah. But yeah, So beginning the Thanksgiving stretch of the show, this week on West Testing TV, we'll be talking about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode Talking Turkey. It is the 12th episode of season 1, and it was written by Cheryl Gard and directed by Jeff Melman. Here's how HBO Max describes the episode: the kids cook Thanksgiving dinner. Ethan, how accurate is that description?
They do.
I mean, they do.
Thanksgiving
There's
dinner.
a lot more that happens.
It happens. Cheryl Gard, by the way, the writer, was actually a producer for the entire series.
Oh, good.
And she wrote 3 episodes, this being one of them.
Well, she did a great job.
It was a great episode.
The episode opens with Jeffrey telling the story of the first Thanksgiving. So this is the thing to couch all Thanksgiving sitcoms in. You don't really have this problem with Halloween and Christmas episodes, but Thanksgiving is always, just now that we are older, more aware society, and we now understand that a lot of things that were taught in elementary school aren't exactly factually accurate. And so like every Thanksgiving episode involves, the Pilgrims and the Indians came together and had turkey and corn, and then they were happy. And it's not what happened.
It did not happen that way. I wonder if that's why they closed the Plymouth Wax Museum that told the story of this, because it's like now I've been
even in this cold open times, even in this cold open, they don't really finish the story, because like Jeffrey's like reading the story to Ashley, and then Will comes in singing the Humpty Dance. So
yeah, it works out because Jeffrey says, and the leader of the Pilgrims bowed his head and said, and then Will bumps in and he goes, the Humpty Dance is your chance, do the hump. And he does the whole, which is not my favorite part of the Humpty Dance, but it's a part that really sticks out. I love the Humpty Dance. Like, rest in peace.
Well,
Humpty Hump.
And this is also the season 1 house, which it's that weird thing of like season 1s will often have, this is before they did XYZ to the set or to the cast or to the opening credits or the whatever. And most of Fresh Prince stays intact for all of its run, except for most notably Aunt Viv does change halfway through due to behind the scenes machinations from Will Smith himself. Which
I've heard different things about that, and they came together and they talked about it, and she said that he said that she was bringing her problems to the set, and she was having a bad marriage, and that was causing problems. So when they came to renew her contract, they kind of wanted to push her out by giving her a pretty bad deal, and she said, I'm not going to take this bad deal. And everyone's like, later.
And then well, like I did an article about why she left, and at the time, like there was a lot, like Will Smith says some very bad things about her in the press at the time, and that and then that damages your reputation and your career if the lead of the show says bad stuff about you. And if anyone watches the Fresh Prince reunion that was filmed and aired during 2020, it's very emotional and very good and very like healing and made me cry. And I'm not even like super emotionally invested in this show, but just like it was very intense.
It's a very good show.
But this is the first house, which is not as, it looks more like a real house. It is darker, like there's a lot more maroons and like forest greens. The house for the next 5 seasons is more like white and open and light. Like there's like a big window in the back of the living room, and the stairs are in the living room instead of in like the kind of entryway as they are in this episode. And the kitchen is also brighter and more open than this kitchen.
Now, is the exterior the same exterior as Beverly Hills?
The same exterior, and I think that they might explain it.
I think it's the Beverly Hillbillies house.
Oh wow.
Of course, I am looking it up. Fresh Prince.
No.
This is what this is what I thought it was. I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, the exterior is probably torn down now because we don't give a crap about our TV exterior houses. Ugh, Warner Brothers Ranch, RIP.
Well, anyway, I might be incorrect because the Beverly Hills house is in Bel-Air.
Yeah, I did like Will's wearing a leather hat in the opening that is very much the Taco Bell 90s color scheme. And yeah, he's dressed very well. There's a really good joke at the beginning where like Viv is like, we're gonna, Thanksgiving's coming, and we're gonna have like turkey and everything, and then Hillary's like, a turkey? I don't, that they were like, they are born and raised to be nothing but food. And then Will's like, I don't think a lot of them had dreams of becoming doctors or lawyers. Da 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 da.
And then the theme song starts.
Yeah, which is the most iconic part of the show.
It really is. I thought it was the mom shows up in the opening theme song, but it's a different mother who plays her in the show.
Yeah, it was just like an old like rap music video, like nanny granny who's just like rah, 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 like curlers in the hair and like wagging the thing. I mean, she looks like a grandmother.
It's true. And I'd say there's probably at least a 20-25 year difference between mom in the opening and mom in the show.
Yeah. Which, I mean, this is her first appearance, so I guess they had not cast her.
Right.
But they should have gone back, a lot of times shows will cast actors and then recast them after their first appearance, and then for syndication they'll reshoot those scenes. They did that with Seinfeld because they like recast most of the parents who played Jerry and George's parents. So yeah, so there are like other scenes that do not have Jerry Stiller as George's dad. It has some other guy. You can find them on YouTube, and they're very different.
Sometimes things change like that. Like Face in the pilot of the A-Team, Face Man, completely different actor.
Different face.
I want to show off these two. If you're not,
yes.
I'm holding up a full series of A-Team novels, 6 volumes that I was able to get online just because they were available. I don't know.
Treasures. So then the doorbell rings because Vi is there, Viola, Will's mother, and Will like leapfrogs over Jeffrey down the stairs, which is really funny. Like he just does like a spectacular stunt, like a feat.
She's played by Vernie Watson. You've seen her in everything. She's been a soap opera actress for a number of decades, I believe. Constantly working. She's great.
Well, and so I love the sisters. I always love the holiday episodes because that's usually when Vi comes over, and then also Jennifer Lewis plays the third sister, and there's a fourth sister who I cannot remember who she is. But like Jennifer Lewis is just so good and so great. It was really I have to watch Dancing with the Stars for work, although I've stopped. Which is good because I love Shangela and she's doing well. But they did on Disney Night, they did Shangela did a number from which Jennifer Lewis was in Hercules. She was the voice of in Hercules. So she sang one of the songs from Hercules, correct? Yeah. And she did it live there. It's either Hercules or Emperor's New Groove. I don't know. That late 90s Disney. I can't remember.
I don't think there were any female-led songs on Emperor's New Groove.
Disney. Which one does she do? Whatever. I mean, she was there live to sing her Disney song live, and then which was fun because then Carl, like Alfonso Ribeiro, is the co-host, and so he was like, "Hey, it's my aunt." Like, it was like, "Oh, that's so cool." I love that.
Well, Vi showed up for the entire season. She's one of the few guest stars other than DJ Jazzy Jeff that did appear in all 5 seasons of
which is good.
Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah, so there is continuity.
She is his mother.
She is his mother.
It's like I'm glad that she didn't just come. I also love Vi and Phil's relationship because it's funny because like it starts off and you think that it's going to be combative because Phil's kind of like, oh, she's coming. She called me Bigfoot because I grew a beard. Then when she comes and you see the way that she ribs Phil, and then you see the way that James Avery like plays Phil's responses, it's like this familial, like we've known each other for so long, like you rib me, and it's like it's actually not as contentious as usually an in-law visiting is. It's very, very warm.
It's not the same as in Bewitched when it was like, oh shit, your mom's here, or Endora's here. Oh shit, Uncle Arthur's here. Like it's not that at all. It's like, oh, everyone's happy that Vi is here.
Yeah, and so like immediately after getting there, well, first of all, we get the first tease of what the main plot is going to be, which is who's going to take Vi's bags to her room. And Will's like, Jeffrey, and then Vi smacks her son in the back of the head because he can take it up there. That man is twice his age.
Yes, and
Dun,
that
dun, dun.
man is played by Joseph Marcel,
Who's actually English.
who is actually English.
I always thought this was a fake accent.
He is part of the Royal Shakespeare Company. He is on the board of the Globe Theater. And just looking into a little bit, he was in the 1974 television movie Anthony and Cleopatra. And 10 years later, James Avery was in the 1984 version of Anthony and Cleopatra. So wow. I always kind of like love when stage actors get like a big TV break and they're like, yeah, I'm good going back to the stage. He's primarily a stage actor. He's worked in other stuff, pretty consistently, good, but he's a stage actor.
He's also so funny.
He's my favorite character. Like, I'm telling you right now, must-see performance in every episode is always Jeffrey.
There's a really funny, right after that is they all go into the living room and Viv is like, hey, Vi, guess what I found in the cabinet? And then Jeffrey's just walking by and he says, certainly not dust.
That's what she says. She says, look what I found. I was dusting the albums and guess what I found? And Jeffrey just zips by the scene and goes, certainly not dust. I laughed out loud and I paused it. I'm like, I have to write this down.
It was so good. But then they have this like amazing scene that I just love. And I think is what is so good about Fresh Prince is it is just, they play the Ain't Too Proud to Beg by the Temptations. And then Viv and Vi dance. And the kids are like kind of embarrassed, and they're like, what is that dance? And like, it's this. Then Hillary's like, it's the swim, and it was popular in the 1940s. And then they're like, no,
not the swim.
It was the 1960s, and that isn't the swim. Phil can do the swim, and then like Uncle Phil just starts doing the swim and like dancing, and then they all start dancing. And this is where this brought about two thoughts to me. Is like, oh my God. It is so rare that I see in sitcoms where adults act not always as adults, like act as just humans that are our age. Because like when I watch like Home Improvement now, I'm like, they're in their mid-30s and I'm older than them. And they're just acting like so by the book adult. And so like this moment is like, oh no, this is the kind of stuff because Uncle Phil is 45 and Aunt Viv is 34, I think the actress is at this time.
Yeah.
So it's like 34, 35. So it's like, so that made me feel like, yeah, these are, I know these. And then, but then I also, this is what I miss about the holidays and going home for the holidays and like the whole, but then I'm also like, my family would absolutely never ever do anything. Never dance. Would never do any.
It's always weird kind of like thinking that my parents were at the age that I am now or I was 10 years ago doing and I feel so much less mature than they were. Maybe they just held it, like carried it better. Maybe that was the times. Like maybe just having kids kind of like sets your mind that way for some people. But like, I'm sitting in a room now surrounded by toys, comic books, books on Disney, magazines about Disney, like Disney art, like, and I like think about like how I was growing up. My parents had like farm scenes and like antiques for like kind of have a rustic look in their house. I'm looking at like I have bases, I have a keyboard, I have a folder with Horseshack on it from Welcome Back Kotter that I'm going to put my will in. Like
I have an X-Men arcade game.
You have an X-Men arcade game. I have an autographed picture of Adam West. Like my parents, my dad has one autographed picture, and that's him with Bill Berge, who he met when he was the Philadelphia Eagles player, and the two of them met, gave him a signature. Like
I think like I think about this all the time about how like we don't look the same as our parents did, and I think it's because there's a capitalist industry that has emerged over the last 20 years that is designed to keep people our age and younger buying. And because like Uncle Phil grew up watching, I don't know, Howdy Doody or whatever, like like whatever. But like those show in 1990, you could not buy like a spatula shaped like a character that you loved when you were
No.
Like a flying monkey or the Tin Man or something. Like they didn't make that kind of stuff. But now I have a Darth Vader spatula made by fucking William Sonoma.
That's
So
and I remember like growing up, and we'd get let's say 24 catalogs of plain shirts and sheets and like boring clothes, and we'd look forward to like the Signals catalog, which and then there was another one that had like TV stuff, and I'd obsess over like they were selling like a VHS of the Three Stooges,
yeah.
or like here's a T-shirt with Jeeves and Wooster on it. I'm like, I don't even know them, but they seem fun. Like those were the little bits that like adults were allowed to enjoy.
Well, like in this episode, like the Temptations, like they have this Temptations record that they loved, 25 years ago when they were younger. But are any of them wearing a like Temptations necktie? Is there a
No.
Temptations shower curtain? Because they just did not make that stuff.
I'm 42 years old and I'm wearing a shirt that has an anime girl on it because I like the comic.
See,
I don't
it's
know
like
what to
all
tell
this
you.
stuff just wasn't it's become more socially acceptable to engage in all this stuff, and then also companies are making this stuff, which I think is what is irrevocably changed, for the better, for the worse.
Yeah.
Who knows, I don't know. I wish I was making the kind of
It keeps
I wish
me
that
young.
I wish that the cost of living and my income was more like what my parents was ratio wise instead of what we have now. But anyway, Carlton then invites his English teacher to come over for Thanksgiving because he wants an A.
He thinks inviting him over is gonna get him an A. This is like the like B level plot that's like mentioned like twice.
I truly don't know why. If there's any critique of this episode, it's like, I don't know why this plot is in there other than to have someone to force to eat all the gross food, which maybe that is enough.
It's like it's the difference between like this sitcom versus when let's say we were watching Spin City, which had like 3 different plots coming together. And that seems to be kind of the way sitcoms are going now. This is one story from beginning to end. There is no subtlety, there is no side plot, there is nothing. All these characters exist to serve this plot of the kids are not doing enough work around the house, and Aunt Vi says, you gotta work. These kids have to work.
This all happens at the very first dinner after Aunt Vi gets there, and when she there's this whole thing about like clearing the table, and she's like, no, Will, you need to clear the table. Jeffrey, you can sit down and eat. And then I love one of my favorite, I guess it's like a favorite like recurring joke in sitcoms is when rich characters have to do menial tasks and don't know what to do. And I love put them in the dishwasher. And then Ashley's response is, let's take them to Jeffrey's room. He'll know what to do.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. And then so they're clearing the table and Hillary's holding the dishes, and she goes, where do these go? And Aunt Vi goes, just put them in the dishwasher. And she just kind of like turns around and looks at Carlton and just goes, here.
And well, like Carlton just like he shrugs, he's like, oh well. And then Ashley's like, take them to Jeffrey's room. It's very like Arrested Development, when Marta leaves, or like when the house cleaner leaves and Buster like takes it out on the vacuum or something because he thought that was her favorite thing. Anyway, I just love take it to Jeffrey's room.
Hilary Banks, played by Karen Parsons, who is now a children's book author.
One of the great sitcom performances of all time is Hilary Banks. Just like absolutely an icon, a legend, a star statement, a legend. And
she's one of those characters like Uncle Arthur in Bewitched, where she's rarely the focus, but every line that she says almost is a banger. It always hits. It's always good.
And the next scene is, I guess it's like the next morning, right?
Yeah,
because the gardening guy comes over. Yeah,
it's the day before Thanksgiving. Will and his mom are kind of having this conversation about how they miss each other. But then
and the gardener comes in, and Will and I love that it is interesting the layer, because this episode is talking a lot about class and is getting to like the fundamental premise of the show, which is like Will from West Philly is now living in Bel-Air where they have all these servants. And so
It's a
like
fish
Vi
out
did
of
not raise him that way. And so
yeah.
so it is like this, there's actually something really serious going on here where like Vi is trying to make sure that her son does not lose touch with, the context and like the morals that he grew up with. And what I think is interesting that Vi doesn't notice is that when the gardener comes in, like Will like get like pats him on the like he like hits his chest, like, hey man, what's like Will, even though Will is still like treating these people like his employees, he is still treating them more as a peer than like Hillary or Carlton or Ashley would. Because he's like, hey man, no, yeah, like he's like, let me go get, Aunt Viv, like, oh, can you cut off some roses for my mom? Like and he clearly knows the gardener, like the gardener like comes in like he's family, and it's like it's really like a nice scene, but like they're the layers there are very interesting.
And that's something that the series has always been really good about, is that it shows it's a class difference, and they highlight that, especially this fish out of water in the first season. It's not a racial difference, because that had been done before.
Yeah.
You had Webster, you had different strokes, but just these characters where it's like, we have a black character living with a white family, and that was the original kind of the premise was what with Benny Medina. That's what his real life situation was, but they changed it up. They're like, we could, it's been done before, let's explore this this difference in African American classes. And that, I think, is something that just like hadn't been seen on TV.
And
but
it's like really well done, and really and it's really an integral part of the show. For as funny as the show is, it is also gets into like some really serious stuff. Even like this stuff is serious stuff. I mean, these are real issues. Because then like Viv and Vi have a real talk about this, and
because Vi, to explain the plot, Vi sends the gardener home for Thanksgiving. He says, like, take the day off,
which is a stretch. I mean, like, you don't live like that.
That's a bit
I don't know like what their sisterly relationship seems to be, kind of,
because
Viv is deferential to Vi.
She wants Will to mow the lawn, which
is
thinking about it, a landscaper in Bel-Air is probably going to have a crew to do all this stuff rather than just one person. I'm the guy who mows the lawn, like,
and also like trims the hedges, tends to the roses, the topiaries.
Like, he's probably got multiple people here, who if I don't know, like, hopefully, like, he's being paid on like a salaried basis, so he can take a day off and he still gets paid, rather than like, hey, you and your crew aren't getting paid because I'm sending you home, which is kind of what happens with the day before Thanksgiving. And this is jumping forward. The day before Thanksgiving, Viv cancels the caterer. So which is like, okay, now the caterer's like, oh fuck, that there's X amount of dollars we don't have.
A lot of dollars too, because they were definitely not getting like the cheap stuff,
unless there was like a cancellation policy where it's like, oh, 24 hours you can't cancel it. But that bothered me. It's like, oh, these people aren't going to get paid because you want your kids to make the food.
So this is where like Vi tells Viv, like, your kids are spoiled, they're getting a fancy ride in a free car. And so like this like rings in Viv's ears. And so like when Phil comes in and the two of them talk, and so like then Viv is now taking it on Vi's point of view. He's like, our kids are getting a free ride in a fancy car. And Phil's whole thing is like, yeah, duh. Like, yeah, obviously. And he kind of accuses Viv of being like, well, you're always the pushover, whatever. And then Viv does an amazing Hillary impression, like, Daddy, I need $300. So it's like they're both kind of at blame, and that's when they cancel the catering. Which I just realized might have been funnier if the catering had already been there, and Viv just like trash. So that way we would know they would have still paid the caterers. They would have been left out to dry, but then all that food would go to waste. And so, like, to make the leap of like the kids are making dinner, which is a perfect Thanksgiving episode plot. And I love one of my favorite. So this is in general, Thanksgiving as a holiday. I'm like, yeah, fine. I am like, it's fine. I love the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, because it is just a awkward, bizarre train wreck, and I love it. But other than that, like I don't really have a special affection for it, other than Thanksgiving sitcom episodes are among the best. And I think it is all because of turkeys. Because the whole holiday is built around a nearly impossible main dish that you have to have. And my favorite trope is when a live turkey is brought on. And this happens a lot of like, we got a turkey and it's a live one. Because like, what do you do with a live turkey on a sitcom? It is just this element of chaos and I love it. But this is just a frozen turkey.
For the past couple of years, my mom has bought like pre-cut like a turkey platter from like the Wegmans. And then she did say this year that she bought a full turkey. So I'm like, oh, okay, so we're doing this. I guess I have a different. I don't look at Thanksgiving the same way as I don't look at it from the historical like this was, this is commemorating a shitty event. I always look at it like this was an opportunity for my family coming in from Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, the Lehigh Valley. Everyone was able to get together under one roof, which we only did for Christmas, maybe birthdays, and Thanksgiving. We ate the same foods that we ate when my mom was a kid. For years, we kept making creamed onions, and the only person who liked it was my grandfather, and then he died, and they kept making creamed onions, and no one wanted them. But it's that kind of tradition, is that for us, it was kind of the same way with Christmas. It's not about the religion. It's not about the purpose of the holiday. It was an excuse for our families to get together and just be happy that we were together.
To quote Garfield, it's not the giving, it's not the getting, it's the loving. Garfield holiday, Garfield Christmas.
I would amend that. I would amend that to say it's not about the giving, it's about the thanks.
Yeah, for Thanksgiving.
I that's how I always feel about it. So I always look forward to going home to Pennsylvania and seeing my folks, because I don't see them a lot.
If I had reliable traditions associated with Thanksgiving, because like they've all been blown apart like many times over now. So just the whole like moving to New York and whoever decided that we should have two major travel necessary holidays within a month of each other should be, to quote Garfield, drug out into the street and shot. Because it always made like you have to choose Thanksgiving or Christmas, and you always choose Christmas. I do. So Thanksgiving was just like, okay, I'm in New York. Me and Seb were doing good hosting our own Thanksgiving for a couple of years. Got some good memories out of that, like the time guest of the podcast Pat Bel-Air carved a turkey on the back of our couch because we did not have anywhere else to carve a turkey. But then the pandemic hit, and so now we're back to like, well, who knows what we're doing. So that's fun. But now the kids are making the turkey, and I love, so this is like Aunt Viv is like basically like waking them all up. They are coming downstairs, they're in their PJs, and they're like, is there an emergency? I have to go get my like new boots I just bought, get my lucky drawers while you're up there. And then I love when she says that they're all cooking dinner. Carlton's just like, I don't know what kind of leftist experiment you're putting us in.
It was a weird line. I liked it. I wrote it down.
And then also Hillary's line is like, I don't know, this is a real New Year's resolution feel to it.
I liked how Jeffrey comes in with a turkey that he just bought, and it is frozen. Yeah. Like, you're supposed to thaw these things out for days. Like, you cannot buy it the morning of.
And then I love Will's excuse of like, my mom's here and she sees me so little and I'm growing so fast.
Will Smith, for not having an acting background, he is the sun in which all the planets revolve around, because he is great in all the scenes.
He is, and they're in such a steep learning curve, because I do think you can see a little bit of shakiness in like the first episode, but like this is episode 12 and he's got it. Yeah. He is doing the impossible thing of he's playing the straight man in the cooking scenes, because he's the one with like the kind of the most cooking knowledge, and that ain't a lot. And he's still being so funny while being in charge, which I love that he tells Hillary like, and you're going to do yams and rolls. And then Hillary's like, I have to do two things. Why don't you put a yoke around my neck and hitch me to a plow?
Like I said, every line is great that she does.
It's so
And
good.
Will Smith has proven time and time again that he can do comedy. He started out doing comedy. He has proved that he can do music, and he has proved multiple times that he can do drama.
Well, and he won an Oscar immediately after causing some drama. Oh my God. We don't have to talk about it a lot, other than I will just say that I was having to cover the Oscars that night was not fun, because it was like 2.5 hours of boring, and then all of a sudden the most unprecedented, unexpected, inexplicable moment in Oscar history all of a sudden happens. And it's like, oh God.
Whoa. Okay.
Having to immediately, this is where like the job being of like a live of a reporter really kicks in, because it's like, oh my God, okay, so you're gonna write this, I'm gonna get you all right now, okay, we're gonna, what's it like, and because I was tasked with like, I was like going through Twitter and like finding oh look, Jada Pinkett Smith and Chris Rock have a history together, sending it to the person that's writing the article, like, oh, she has alopecia, like I'm the one that discovered that, like, okay, here, add that to the article, like it's just like, it was this insane rush. But I will say, I watched this episode of Fresh Prince and didn't even think about that.
I didn't think
so
about
good.
it until you
He's
brought it
so
up
good.
at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah,
it's that he doesn't do comedies all that much anymore. I can't even remember the last comedy he did. Men in Black. Like, I don't know.
Hitch was early 2000.
That was 20 years ago.
Yeah, because like, I don't know.
He's gone full drama.
Yeah, it's yeah, yeah, we'll see what happens. God. Back in the living room, the the English teacher is there, and he might have been there just to deliver the, hey, I'm teaching the kids through a rap version of Hamlet. Peep this, to be in effect or to not be in effect. That is, I can't remember what that is, the situation or something.
Something like it was really bad. Everyone acknowledged it as bad except for the teacher, who probably the actor recognized also that it was very bad.
Yeah, but it's like, that is very, I mean, I feel like Abbott Elementary is making, like, does that same joke. Because it's like, that is still a thing. White teachers are still trying to teach Shakespeare through rapping.
Shakespeare is not rap. It has a rhythm to it, which is a different kind of rhythm. Look, I read a shit ton of books about Shakespeare because I do not believe he wrote the plays. So I read a lot of books about that, and I just have to find myself reading a whole bunch of Shakespeare and critiques and criticisms and this and that. It does not work the same way rhythmically as rap does.
No, it's not Rapper's Delight.
No,
but back in,
it does not scan.
In the kitchen.
So in the kitchen, Will has assigned himself the turkey. Ashley has been assigned the cranberry sauce, generally something that does not involve much cooking, because even in this episode, it comes out of a can.
Yeah.
Carlton has been assigned the stuffing. And Hillary has, like you said, the yams and rolls. So we see how they're cooking these things. We don't see Will's turkey. We see 2 canned cranberry sauces sticking vertically up from a plate. Carlton is using a dish maybe about a foot wide, probably a little bit less, to cook stuffing for a family, for a gathering of like 9 people.
9 people. Yeah, a lot of people.
And that's the thing, like, and that's what I noticed about this through all of this, is the portions are minute.
Yeah, for that many
cranberry
people,
sauce.
God.
That makes sense. Turkey, not big enough for this entire family. No way. Not enough.
Yeah.
A tiny casserole dish, a round casserole dish. So most people know what those are, of stuffing. A little slightly larger casserole dish of yams. This is like stuff you find like at the bottom of your cabinet and say, we're going to cook a meal between our other meals.
It is, honestly, considering that they were catering and they just canceled it on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. This honestly might just be what was in the house, other than that turkey that Jeffrey bought. I don't know. Possible. Like, it could be that. I like Hillary says Mr. Poppin' Fresh doesn't want to come out of his tube while holding a butcher knife.
Trying to take the rolls out of there. So, okay, yes. One roll. Imagine you're feeding a family of 9 on 1 canister of rolls for
God, I
Thanksgiving.
want
Now,
some
some
rolls.
people
Oh.
do it. I understand it. But this is also, the whole point is that they are very rich.
And Ashley is holding the cranberry sauce, and Carlton like bumps into her, and it goes on the floor immediately, which they then put back on the plate. Carlton's like, my stuffing is so dry, and then Will walks over there. I actually don't know anything about cooking stuffing. Is this the advice? Because he's like, Carlton, when something is dry, what do? We add cream of mushroom soup. Stir, like add, stir. Like he says it like, you idiot, you should know this. I mean, I don't, do you add cream of mushroom soup?
I
He
don't,
adds an entire
could.
can. So when it goes out for everyone to eat, I do like, they say like the yams have this thick black crust on the top, and Hillary says like it's Cajun style.
I like that. She has good lines.
And then when they say like the cranberry sauce, and then Hillary gets back, Ashley's the one that's like, Hillary worked hard putting the fire out, and that like embarrasses Hillary. So then she gets back at Ashley by saying like, oh yeah, Ashley did a great job picking the cranberries off the floor. And then when they ask, does anyone want stuffing, is it Uncle Phil that says, where's that been?
Yeah. And the teacher scoops it up with a spoon, and it is liquid. It is soup.
Yeah, it is gross. That chunky soupy stuffing was no good to me.
So and Phil says, and actually Will says, well, the turkey is cooked to perfection. We'll do that. Uncle Phil starts carving it and says it is frozen on the inside. So all the food is terrible. It happens.
Do they eat? They don't eat, or we don't see them eat.
They don't eat, but they do mention that the teacher is on his second glass of stuffing.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. No, thank you. God. So then, like the episode ends with like Viv and Vi talking about their feelings, and actually having I do like that Viv cause like, you basically called me a bad mother. Like she does like call out, like, even though you had a point about our kids are definitely getting a fancy ride in a free car, it was shitty to do that while you're in my house right before Thanksgiving, and the way you did, which was basically like, you're raising your kids wrong. That's not cool.
and I think there is an understanding that Viv and Phil are trying to give their kids something that they didn't have when they were growing up. Yeah. Which is kind of like this different way of living, this kind of support. They're doing well in school. Like that's
Will's getting an A in English.
Yeah, that's the trade-off, is that Will isn't mowing the lawn and doing the dishes and doing this and that. He's actually focusing on his studies, and it's working out really well, which is the whole point of the show. Was he was doing badly in Philadelphia, and he's turning himself around.
And on the playground is where he spent most of his days,
not in the library. So they start making a dinner out of whatever they have available. The only thing we see is half a head of iceberg lettuce in a giant bowl that Viv just rushes out to the table. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Oh my God.
She left half of the head of iceberg lettuce on the counter as she ran inside.
That's for seconds. That's, so they don't eat everything right away. No. The last scene of the episode is Vi and Will like having a talk, and it doesn't even, there are no jokes. It's very much just like a scene between like a mother who misses her son because she sent her son away to like get him out of a bad situation, and she's like, I miss you, and he's like, I miss you. And then like it's like a kind of not a somber, it's like a real grounded ending to an episode with a lot of laughs.
It's a hug, and then it ends.
Yeah. And I do think that is good, because like if you just watch any other random episode of Fresh Prince, you're always like, wait, why is he there? Why is his mom? Like, I know the theme song's trying to explain it to me, but like, we gotta. So when she comes and you get these moments, I mean, there's like an episode or two where like she's trying to like bring him back, and like there's, they actually do tackle all that stuff in between the fun jokes.
There aren't a lot of series anymore that tell you the entire setup for the show in the opening.
I know.
Song.
That was the whole
Hillbillies,
thing.
I mentioned it. Beverly Hillbillies does that.
Well, that is like all the, it's the story of a lovely lady. Like that's the whole classic thing. Now a theme song, you know what a theme song is? Doop 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 doop. That's it. Or doo doo.
We're gonna show you the title,
the logo, and who created the show
over the first scene.
Yeah, oh God. And like, give me And what drives me crazy is like, we are in streaming times now. We do not have to make room for commercials. So you guys can give us a 30-second to 45-second opening credit sequence. And you change every season to reflect the new cast members.
Now what happens is with streaming, you actually have the option to skip the intro.
Or they do, here's a 2-minute long intro that is just abstract images floating behind names.
I'm sorry. I really loved the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, but you're right. That's what it was. It was stones moving around under words.
No, a really great score, but thank you. God. Are you ready for some must-have facts about this episode?
Yeah, give them to me.
How many people do you think watched this episode of television?
A billion. Everyone watched this. Quiz. So good.
12.3 million people.
That's a little less than a billion, but at the same time, that's decent.
That's numbers. A lot for now, but back then it was 25th for the week in the ratings.
Ooh.
And the top 10 shows of the week, because the top 5 shows are all duds and not all duds, but mostly duds. So number 10, this gives you a more accurate idea of what was on the air at the time. 10 was Empty Nest, 9 was Golden Girls, 8 was Designing Women, which I know the Golden Girls team was not happy about. 7 was Murphy Brown, 6 was Murder, She Wrote, and then 5 was America's Funniest Home Videos, 4 was America's Funniest People, 3 was Monday Night Football, 2 was Stephen King's It Part 2, and number 1 was 60 Minutes. So it's a very weird top 5. America was watching some weird stuff the week of Thanksgiving that year. I guess that might be it.
But in the bottom 5, those were 4 women-led sitcoms.
Yeah, Empty Nest, Golden Girls, Designing Women, Murphy Brown, Murder, She Wrote.
I wasn't going to include Empty Nest, but it might as well be.
Yeah, 4 female-led shows right there. And then America's Funniest Home People, led by Dave Coulier.
I'm actually surprised that rated over America's Home Videos.
It might have been a thing where that week I should have looked at because from my recollection, America's Funniest Home Videos came on first, and then America's Funniest People came out after that, and then if it's Monday Night Football. So that was on Sundays. Because I was like, if something really, really, really big came on right after that, I could see more people tuning in and catching America's Funniest People, which America's Funniest People was camera crews went to malls and just said, do something funny to people. This is what TikTok was back then.
Yeah, it's kind of like Vine. It's kind of like TikTok. It was make your own content, send it in to us. So you'll get you'll get dad telling a joke at a bar. You'll get maybe some people film a skit. I remember
my mom's favorite was a overweight woman in cowboy boots dancing in a cornfield to These Boots Were Made for Walking, and my mom thought it was hilarious. So that's the humor.
You know what? There's a lid for every pot. Every joke is gonna find someone that likes it.
The jackalope was the running thing in America's Funniest People. Fast as fast can be, you'll never catch me.
It was such a hodgepodge of just random shit on that show.
What was the jackalope videos? Like someone had a taxidermy jackalope and made things and then sent them in, and then Dave Coulier, host of the show, did a voiceover. Like, was the person getting free labor from Dave Coulier just by making jackalope videos?
I don't know.
Or was Dave Coulier involved in? I need to do an article about the history of the jackalope.
That's a Decider article I don't want to read. But
unfortunately, I don't know if you can stream America's Funniest People anywhere. I should look.
I don't know
up.
if did that ever get a video collection? That's one
I
of those
don't know. I don't think it penetrated.
It's kind of funny that Dave Coulier was all over everything back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
and
Alanis Morissette ruined that career.
But I don't know if it ruined his career, because his career did kind of he's still doing stuff.
The times changed. The times changed.
But the availability of the stuff that he was doing. Do you remember what was it, Out of Control? He did a Nickelodeon show, and then he got on Full House, and then he got on America's Funniest People. This was riding the wave, and then he was doing a ventriloquist act with a beaver puppet.
Yeah, the beaver puppet.
For a while, and then it's just that stuff is the only stuff you can find is Full House.
Yeah,
which of course was like, I'd say was the high point, the high
which
point of
was
the wave.
which was the pinnacle of his career. The NBC Monday night lineup that this aired as part of was Fresh Prince, followed by an episode of Parenthood, and then the TV movie Thanksgiving Day, starring Mary Tyler Moore and Tony Curtis.
Tony Curtis.
Which I need to find this movie Thanksgiving Day, because first of all, there aren't that many Thanksgiving movies.
You know what? I'm going to do you a favor. I am going to look up Thanksgiving Day to tell you what Thanksgiving, if I can spell it right, Day, starring Mary Tyler Moore. Oh, this was a new film.
Yeah, it debuted that night.
It debuted.
There was a big ad in the Tennessean for it that I
Mary
saw.
Tyler Moore.
It seems like it's a comedy.
Sonny Bono, Morton Downey Jr., Tony Curtis. I'm looking at the other names. It's 5.6 stars out of 10 on IMDb. 69 people have watched it. It's an hour and a half. It's a lighthearted spoof about a dysfunctional upper income family who have to come to terms with family and business problem around the named holiday.
It seems like it's just, here's a movie about family at Thanksgiving, which is the most bland thing ever, but I want to watch it.
Yeah, I don't trust this.
I think I can get down with the vibes that it's giving off. I like that 89, 90 vibe.
Got Tony Curtis, you know.
What are you watching on Monday night that this is airing at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for me? On ABC, we have an episode of MacGyver. MacGyver goes undercover as a field hand when he MacGyver goes undercover as a field hand when he suspects grape growers who may be using illegal pesticides murdered a labor organizer. NBC, Fresh Prince, Will's visiting mom coerces Vivian into canceling the catered Thanksgiving dinner. CBS, Evening Shade. The townspeople help tutor the football team so they will not be barred from playing. And I'm taking a B reel because I'm being real. This is what we're doing instead of Twitter now. I don't know. Fun. CBS Evening Shade, the townspeople help tutor the football team so they will not be barred from playing. And on Fox is running Hairspray, which the TV guide describes as a pleasantly plump teenager teaches 1962 Baltimore a thing or two about integration after landing a spot on a local TV dance show. So are you watching grape growers who may be murderers on MacGyver, the Fresh Prince episode we watched? The townspeople tutoring of the football team on Evening Shade, or Hairspray?
The part of me that wants to be a hipster is going to say Hairspray, but I probably know I won't have the attention span to watch the entire thing with commercials.
Movie.
So I'll probably watch Fresh Prince.
Oh, you're not going to watch to see if those grape growers were up to something sinister?
They probably were. Why else would MacGyver be there?
God,
everything's ship-shape around here.
This is the problem nowadays, that we do not have these. You got to make 24 to 26 episodes of an hour-long show a year, because you think if MacGyver comes back as an 8-episode Hulu original, he's going to do an episode about grape growers? I don't think so. He's probably going to be after one villain for 8 episodes.
I would say I would love the shit out of 24 episodes of Evil, each lasting as long as they do, because that show is amazing.
Or, I mean, I am glad people were like, Andor has 12 episodes. Oh my God. And I'm like, this is what is good about television.
That's what
you actually make 12 episodes, then 12 episodes. She-Hulk, 9. Amazing. Give me 24.
Asaf Manvi in Evil has a demon girlfriend and a girlfriend that's actually 2 people. What? I love the show.
Okay, you see that. On IMDb, 800 Fresh Prince fans, it's a lot, gave this episode a 7.2, which I'm calling shade. This is easily 8.8, 8.9 for me. I mean, I think this is a 5-star Thanksgiving episode.
I'd go at least 8.5. I think it was fantastic. The jokes are good. The jokes hit.
I mean, it might be a season 1 old house kind of like, bias of like, oh, I don't like the season 1 episodes because they weren't in the right house. And so therefore you rank all of the season 1 episodes low, maybe. I don't know. But I'm like, nothing. Must see performance of this episode.
I always have to go with Jeffrey.
Jeffrey
and
I think I always have to go with Hillary. I think I just love. I mean, also just like Will is amazing in this episode, and I will say I love Viv and Vi's dynamic. They feel like sisters, and I like that.
I kind of have to say that, like, as great as Alfonso Ribeiro is in so many of these episodes,
oh yeah,
he was backseated in this. He did not get much screen time or lines.
And they tried to give him the plot with the teacher, and that didn't even really go anywhere. And I think Ashley got funnier lines. Ashley, who doesn't do that much usually, but that whole like, let's take it to Jeffrey's room. He knows what to do. That still is great. Yeah, so I'm gonna say Hillary. Must other people see this episode? I think this is an essential Thanksgiving episode to watch.
I would say it's definitely an essential Thanksgiving episode. I don't know if it's an essential Fresh Prince episode, but you know what? If you have never seen Fresh Prince before, jump in on it. It's great. Yeah. It's on HBO Max. It's the all 5 or 6 seasons are streaming.
It's 6 because it's 3 with original Viv and 3 with new Viv.
I see.
And I think New Viv has like 1 more episode in the total count.
Well, I have nothing but good things to say about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I remember it. I remember the first episode. I remember watching the first episode. The show changed over time. You can't do the fish out of water forever, especially when you're talking about like 6 years of.
They go through high school. I think it ends with them in college, maybe. I know Will gets like serious girlfriends. Will's dad comes back at one point in an amazing episode. Like just a lot of
played by the great Ben Vereen.
Yes, right. Yeah.
He only did 1 episode. His dad was always kind of this, why don't you love me? And that's
that one scene.
That one scene.
Oof.
That's the if you do want to see something bizarre and hilarious, look up on YouTube Fesh Pints of Blair. It is a 22-minute long, like a full episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, just with a whole bunch of crappy video editing techniques that just I could not stop laughing at, just because it's lines are dubbed in weird places, characters speed up and slow down, and it's just in episodes are just kind of mashed together in this bizarre plot. It was so much fun. I'm so glad that you suggested Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for this episode, because I had just watched Fesh Pints of Blair and it was fantastic.
And if you want something completely different, watch Bel-Air on Peacock, which is the dramatic retelling of the Fresh Prince show, which I covered for work, so I've seen all of season 1, and it wasn't as misguided or bad as I assumed it would be. I got kind of invested, although the first episode is hilarious because it is literally the theme song beat by beat, but done as a drama. Like literally a cab pulls up and there is dice in the mirror. Like they really hit. And like, I think at one point, like Will even says, I just got into a little fight and my mom got scared. Like,
you got to play the hits.
Yeah, it is very funny that they're doing it so seriously, but it's fun. It's an interesting show. That does it for this episode of Must Have Seen TV. Where can people find you on the internet to wish you tidings of great joy?
Well, not on Christmas. Twitter. Check me out on Instagram, EthanK55. Yeah.
And you can follow Brett. You can follow me on Instagram at Brett White. You can follow my drag exploits at Barb Hardley. Where if you go to at Brett White, you will see a sneak preview at 2 of Barb's Christmas looks, which I will probably be wearing on this very podcast as soon as we get into the Christmas episodes.
I hope so.
Because they're amazing. And you can read the words that I write at Decider.com. Oh God. Yeah, I don't have any Thanksgiving TV content. So sorry. That's not it's Christmas already, and it's been Christmas for me since the second to last week of October because of these movies. And everyone, please you can also follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Must Have Seen TV, but I rarely log into them because there's a lot going on. And Twitter's a whole thing. You can rate and review the show.
Yeah, leave us comments, and we will read them here, and we will comment on them and thank you for them.
We did get 2 more. We're now at 68 star ratings, and we were at 66 for a long time. We're now at 68. No more written reviews though on iTunes, but I applaud whoever left star ratings. I do not know what ratings they were left. I'm going to assume 5 stars, so I accept nothing less. But please rate and review, and we'll read the review on the air if it's a good one. And if it's a bad one, make it really bad so that there we can read it. You can also email it at musthavescenes@gmail.com. And you can love yourself and treat yourself very well during this holiday season. I didn't have anywhere where that sentence was going, so I just took it there. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks to Acast for hosting the podcast. Thanks to everyone for listening and also watching on YouTube if you want to. And if you are interested in like a live streaming event or something, Christmas is coming up. That seems like a good time to do one. And if you've listened this far into the podcast, make a note to talk about this at the beginning of the podcast.
God damn it.
Let us know. We can figure something out.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye, he said.